create our hinge. And I did not come up with this hinge system. This hinge system was created by Laura Dennison at Following the Paper Trail. She did an amazing tutorial, so you can check out her tutorial for some super fabulous ideas. That's how I learned how to make this. And I also learned how to make this from Claire. She's from the UK. She's phenomenal. She actually gives dimensions if you want a 3/8 of an inch gap between your toilet paper rolls. But the one I like to use for the toilet paper ones is the one that are the dimensions for the 1/4 inch space in between. And again, I did not come up with this binding system. This is the Stack to Deck binding from Laura Dennison at Following the Paper Trail. So these are the measurements that I use. And again, you need to measure your toilet paper rolls because all toilet paper rolls are not the same. So you're going to need 3 pieces. You can use this binding system with an even number of pages. I'm using 6. You don't have to use 6. You can use 4 if you want. If you want to use 4, then you're only going to need the first 2 measurements. But if you're going to use 6 like I do, then you need all 3 measurements. And 6 is, I think, a really good size. So on the first piece, what you need, and again, I use cardstock for this. I like to use the Recollections, the craft, because it's a little more flexible. And I would probably use the black on this, but the black doesn't show up on the video, so I'm going to use craft for this particular project, which it doesn't matter. It's still going to match anyway. Your first piece needs to be 2.5 inches tall, this way, by 1 3/4 inches wide. Your second piece needs to be 2.5 inches tall by 2 1/4 inches wide. And your third piece needs to be 2.5 inches tall by 2 3/4 inches wide. And what you're going to do is you're going to score 3/4 of an inch on both sides. So what you'll do is you'll put it in your scoreboard and you will score at 3/4 of an inch here, flip it around and score it at 3/4 of an inch here. Do that on all 3 pieces. Again, and make sure you have your width piece, don't score it on the wrong side. I've done that a gazillion times. So what I like to do is I kind of like to stack them on top. So your 1 3/4 inch piece is your first one. It goes right on top of the second one and then the third one. So they're stacked like this. That way I know, and I lay them like this before I start scoring them. So that way I know which direction to go ahead and score my, put my 3/4 inch. Because there's nothing worse than getting them all cut and then scoring on the wrong side. So I'm going to grab my scoreboard. And I have them stacked up the way I want them. I'm going to take my first one, which is, again, 2.5 inches this way by 1 3/4 inch. On the 1 3/4 inch, that's going to be on top of my scoreboard right here. I'm going to score at 3/4 of an inch on this side. Flip it around and score it at 3/4 of an inch this way. That leaves you a 1/4 inch in between. So then I'm going to take the next piece, lay it in here, score it at 3/4 of an inch. Flip it around, score it again at 3/4 of an inch. Again, that leaves a little bit wider space, but trust me, it all works out. It's fabulous. Again, the last piece, scored at 3/4 of an inch, and flip it around and score it at 3/4 of an inch. So we're done with the scoreboard. Go ahead and fold on your score marks. All 3 pieces. So there's my hinges. So what you do is you take the first one, which was our 1 3/4 inches by 2.5 inches. If you notice, they were all 2.5 inches tall, all 3 pieces. It's just the widths that were differently. And then I'm going to take my score tape and, oopsie, go ahead and on the bottom, run a piece of score tape right in between. And since it's a 1/4 inch gap, your 1/4 inch score tape will fit right in there. Try not to get it on the score lines, just right in between the two score lines, and it should just fit perfectly. So go ahead and run a piece of tape there. And then on the next one, again, it's going to sit like this with your folds standing up. Flip it over and put score tape in between your two score marks along the center. So I like to do two pieces, so I'm going to put one here. And again, not on top of the score lines, but just inside it in the center piece. And another one. So it looks like that. And then our third one, again, the things are up like this. We're going to flip it over and I usually do 3 pieces of score tape on this, because this is what's going to hold our toilet paper rolls inside of our cover. So we want to make sure we don't skimp on the score tape. No skimping on the score tape. There we go. I usually use 3 on that one. So what you're going to do is take your first piece, burnish it really, really well, pull off the paper backing, and again, you can watch the tutorial that Laura Dennison had done on this. But this is the measurements I use for my toilet paper rolls. And then you want to go ahead and center that. So this center piece, you're going to want to put it right in the center of your second piece. So you're going to stack it right on top of there. And if you want to, you can measure it. You can mark your center and line up your 2 center pieces. I just eyeball it. Or you can lay them on top of each other before you take the paper off and trace the line so you know where it's supposed to go. Again, I just eyeball it. I know I'm supposed to have a 1/4 inch, so usually if I line it up, it works. I can pretty much eyeball it. Now if I say that and get it wrong, ew, how embarrassing. And line that up like that and stick it down. So there's our first piece on top of our second piece. Then we're going to take the other one that has the 2 pieces of score tape, take the backing off, and do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and center that piece. And the way you know is because you're going to have a 1/4 inch this way on the outsides. And line it up. And stick it down. And again, you can use your ruler and mark the centers. You can trace the outside line so that way you know how to line it up, but I just eyeball it. So it should look like this. That's our hinge. And then go ahead and take your bone folder and really get the hinge working really good in both directions, because when you put it together, like we did here, you're going to really want your pages to fold really nice. So you want your hinges to work both ways. So that's our hinge system. Then what I like to do what we're going to do next is we're going to take this piece and we're going to stick it to the bottom section of our cover. But what I like to do first is I like to go ahead and we need to cover this gap up, because this particular piece is not going to cover our chipboard. So we need to cut a piece of cardstock that's going to fit right in here. And I'm going to use black just because that's what I have available. And I've cut this a 1/4 inch shorter than what the height of my my chipboard covers are 3 inches. So this is cut at 2 3/4 inches, and I just cut, you know, like 4 or 5 inches, I think. Let me see. I don't know. I just used a piece of scrap. Yeah, it's 5 inches. So it's 2 3/4 by 5 inches for this. What I'm going to do is go ahead and glue this piece down. Actually, yes, I'm going to glue this piece down and cover this up first. So I'm going to take my score tape. And then I usually put some on the actual chipboard here. 2 and 3, and then 1 on the edge of where the chipboard is here and here. Okay. And again, we're going to make sure we find those crease marks. So we're going to go ahead and fold up on this, flip it around, and fold up on this. And then this piece will get covered in one long piece of design paper. But this is for our hinge system. So now that we have that done, and hopefully you can see, this is our bottom piece right here. So it's going to stand like this. And we have our black piece of paper in there to cover up our gaps. We are now going to take our hinge, and we have the score tape already on the back of this. We're going to peel this off. And this is the tricky part right here. Well, it's not tricky, it's just, you know, you want to get it even. Okay? And then take your bone folder and burnish in between your gaps. This little 1/4 inch is going to give you enough room if you want to put some embellishments on your pages. Just to give you a little more give room. So that's our hinge. So then what I like to do now, before I glue on my toilet paper rolls, is I like to dry fit my hinges just to make sure. See how those fit right on there? I cut my hinges, the 2.5 inches is just slightly narrower than here. And if you go to put it on here, and what I should have done, and I apologize, before I stuck it down, is I would have dry fit my hinges to make sure they fit first. So then what you're going to do is you're going to, again, take your score tape, and you're going to put a piece of score tape on the one side of your hinge, and at the bottom of your hinge, and flip it over, and same on the back side. On this piece, and on this piece. So you and then do that to all of your little flaps. Okay? Then when you get your tape on all of them, go ahead and burnish it really good, and then get your pages in the order. Again, this is the front, so whatever order you want your pages in, you're going to take your first one. I start from the front and go to the back. You're going to pull the tape off and stick it in there and press it down. And I'm just going to dry fit these so you'll see what it looks like. And again, you'll have score tape on all of these, and just do them one at a time. Take your time. So once you get them all in order, and then just go ahead and stick them down. And then you're ready to go ahead and cover this piece and this piece. Now we're going to cover the inside, back, top, and flap, and the front cover. So what I did for my front cover is I decided to go ahead and use some design paper, and I used a piece of 12 by 12 paper. And I cut my front piece at 2 3/4 inches wide by, I think I cut it at 5 1/4. So that's going to go right down here. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to take my piece here that I've cut for my front cover and center it so I have a little bit. This leaves me a little bit of a space on the top and the bottom. There we go. Neat and tidy. Burnish it really good so you get a good stick with the score tape. Now we're going to cut the back piece. Again, it's going to be 2 3/4 inches wide, and I just cut a strip off of my 12 by 12, and then I'm just going to measure it to see where I want to cut it off at. Oopsie. So the piece measures 10 inches. I'll cut this off at 9 3/4. So let me go trim this really quick. Okay, so here's my piece. That's 2 3/4 by 9 3/4, and that's going to go right there. Okay, before I stick this down, what I want to do is I want to have, like I did on this one, a little magnetic closure. And I like to use the little basic gray thin magnets. So I want to put my magnet here before, and then I want to use my paper to cover it up. Now you're probably saying, well, why didn't you do that here? Which I probably should have, but that's okay because I'm going to put a strip of something here to cover it up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to put another decorative element there. So I'm going to take my magnet out. You have two pieces, a plus and a minus. Take one of each, and these little puppies are fabulous. Love them. Stick them together like this. Peel the back off of one side, and it doesn't really matter which one. Oopsie. Guess I better use my little crab knife because it's got a little sticky thing on it. And then don't put it too close to the edge because otherwise it will pull out from underneath your paper. So I like to stick it about, you know, kind of in the center. Right there. Stick it down. And you have your two magnets stuck together, so then you just take and peel off the other backing. Go ahead and close up your mini album where you want it. Try not to get that stuck to your shirt. Fold it down and press. And then you should be able to, it sticks this piece down for you with the little glue dot that's on the back. So now we can take our piece that we cut to cover this and go ahead and cover our little magnet. So these magnets are nice and thin so you can't really tell where they are on the inside. You can use Velcro. You don't have to use a magnet. You can use a Velcro cover closure, or you can actually punch a hole right here and tie ribbon through and make a little ribbon closure. So it's just whatever you choose. I like to use the magnets. And again, we're going to take our bone folder. We got to make our creases in here because we have our seams. And one more in here. Make a seam. And here we go, girls. We are done. Finished. Voila. There we have it. That's our mini album. Isn't it darling? Do you just love it? So then, what you can do is go ahead and make your tags to go inside your toilet paper rolls. I make them a little thinner, a little narrower than the opening, so that way they'll go in and out. And again, I don't cut my tags until after I know how big my opening is, because we have closed up the bottom of that with our 3/4 inch binding. And I like a little bit of my tag to stick out so I can put my pull tab on there. So I think what I'm going to do with these, I'm going to leave them plain. And then I saw this really cute thing that they had done. This one lady, on her tags, she had taken and punched out a scalloped circle. And like this, and she folded it in half like this, which I thought was quite clever. Folded it over, and then she took it and she glued this on the top of her tag, and then her little pull tag, she went on the top like this and glued it down. I thought that was darling. How cute is that? And then that's the little tag. So there you go. That's your mini album. What I did on this one is another thing you can do if you want to hang some charms or you want to tie some ribbon, is you can take your crocodile and you can punch a couple of holes in here and run some ribbon through and tie a bow at the top, or you can run some ribbon through and tie a bow at the top, and then you can attach a Tim Holtz swivel clasp and hang some charms. So there's a lot of options as far as embellishing it. But basically that's how you construct the vertical toilet paper roll mini album. It's really super fun, and they're really fun to make. And I mean, hey, everybody has toilet paper rolls, right? So there you go, everybody. If you have any questions, just let me know, and thanks for watching.